Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Legend from the Past. I am Amon Wallace, and this is Ayana Moon. Ayana, how you doing tonight? Ayana,
Doing well. Good evening, everyone.
are you there? Ayana,
I'm here. Yep.
how you doing tonight?
Can you hear me?
Now you're coming in pretty good. You were frozen for a
I'm
minute.
doing well. How's everything?
Everything is everything. You know, we had a
Oh, okay.
nice time this weekend with the event. You
Yes,
know,
we did. Wow.
very successful, very successful. I'm going to show a 36-second clipping of what we experienced this past Saturday.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So we got a chance to honor three individuals, three legends this past Saturday. We had a nice time, Ayana. And not just that, you know,
We really did. And I really appreciate everyone who made it possible.
Absolutely. So we got a good guest tonight, Ayana. We got a Alderwoman that's running for mayor. And we are about to bring her on the stage. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready for it. Bring her up.
Coming to the stage, here she is, Alderwoman Rhonda Pindell, the Honorable Rhonda Pindell. How you doing tonight?
I'm waiting for the applause to stop. I'm doing very well. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. I appreciate it. Miss Moo Young, it's great to meet you.
We would like to welcome you to the show. Ayana, you are frozen tonight.
I'm frozen?
Yeah, you have a serious delay tonight. Well, we're gonna move on with the show. Alderwoman, how you doing tonight? Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. I really do appreciate it. It's an honor. I've heard a lot of great things.
It's an honor to have you on the show tonight. You know, thanks for coming.
Well, thank you.
So look, what we do first, we travel back down memory lane. Okay, this is the real time tunnel. So
all right.
Let's begin first by you telling everybody where you're from.
Oh, I'm from Annapolis, raised and now the odd thing is when my parents when I was born, they were living in Cherry Hill at the time in Baltimore. So I was actually born at Hopkins and I was there for the first 9 months of my life. So I don't remember anything. But anyway, at that point in time, they moved back to Annapolis. My dad's from Annapolis, my mom's from Severn, the Queenstown community off of Quarterfield Road. So they met at Bates High School. So that's where I am as far as my lineage with my parents. And so I've been in Annapolis ever since I was 9 months old, and I've been in parole. And it's a wonderful community, and we're so proud of that. So that's the very beginnings, preschool.
So now, where did you go to high school at?
Annapolis High School. It was when we left Parole Elementary, I was in 6th grade, and that was the year of desegregation. So I was scheduled to really go to Wally H. Bates High School, but they sent us all to Annapolis Junior High. And so that was a situation that was different. My mom was a teacher at Wally H. Bates as an algebra teacher. and she was sent to Southern High School. And so everybody kind of broke up, and it was kind of an odd experience. It was an experience that we never had before, but a few trying times, but we kind of made it through in spite of.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you went to Annapolis High School.
Yes.
When you finished at Annapolis High School, did you go to college?
Yes, I did. And in fact, the really the trauma that we experienced during desegregation to Annapolis Junior and then Annapolis High, didn't want to go to college. My parents actually forced me and made me. My mother graduated from Morgan State College at the time, and that's the only school that I applied for. My father had a full scholarship to go to Hampton, but because of his parents' poverty, he went into the service, and my grandparents had just had a baby. So she went to college and he didn't. He went into the service. And so, yes, that was the beginning of going to Morgan. I did my 4 years there, did extremely well, majored in business administration. And I had a business law professor, and you never know who's on your path. And he was from Africa, Professor Bowen. I tried to find him, but I couldn't. One day after class, it was a business law class, and I was kind of the last one to leave, and I was carrying my books, and he stopped me and he said, "Miss Pindell, what are you going to do when you finish Morgan?" And I said, "I have no idea." He said, "7 words that changed my life. You ought to go to law school." And I had another professor who wanted me to go to Wharton School of Business, but he gave me a B, and Professor Bowen gave me an A. So that's a way to make a decision, huh? So I decided to try law school, and I applied to several of them. Got into Maryland. That was the only one. So yeah. But,
Okay. Did you get anything lower than a B?
not at Morgan. Oh, maybe no, I did. Accounting was the most difficult subject I ever had taken, and it was rough. And I did get C's in there, but I did extremely well. I was, in fact, when I graduated, I was a business administration student of the year, and so my confidence level had exceeded, even though it had waned in junior high and high school. But I thank God for my parents, my community, my church, my family, my friends for actually pushing me to do that, because I would have never gone. So, but no, it's a lot of people along the way that have been part of my life. I didn't do it all by myself, didn't do it alone. Many others have poured into me, and it's been a blessing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I'm going to pass you over to Mrs. Yanamu Young,
Okay.
and let's start it off. Yana, it's all yours.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So you said your mom was an educator. What was it like growing up with a parent who was an educator?
Well, it was very helpful in my schooling. In fact, my first job that I had was with my mother at the age of 10. She had me grading papers and typing tests. And I learned at the age of 10, I'd never taken algebra. If you don't know something, ask a question. And so I really learned that early on to make sure I didn't make too many mistakes. But she was very good. And then at the age of 11, I started working for my dad. He and his brother and their cousin had their own local building contracting business. So I was the secretary and the payroll clerk and the receptionist and all that sort of thing. So I learned a great work ethic. My dad was the hardest boss I've ever had in my entire life. He was, and I'm an only child, so go figure that one. But no, they taught me the importance of working hard, trying to get it done correctly, asking questions if you don't know. My dad used to always say, because he did a lot of work for Dr. Allen, Aristide Allen at the time, who had a lot of properties. And he said, Dr. Allen used to always say, ask someone who knows more about it than you do. And I followed that, and so did my dad. And so, if you don't know, ask. There's no shame in asking. So.
I love that. Absolutely. And so, had you thought of entering any business of your own? Like, did you catch the entrepreneurship bug, or what was your first job besides working for your parents?
Well, I had a series of summer jobs. I worked for a blast cleaning company. I worked for Sears. I worked for Maryland National Bank then for 4 summers. So all of those were private enterprises, all doing different things. But my mom worked for the government. And so my first, and I worked for the public defender's office when I was in law school. But my first real paying professional job was with the Department of Natural Resources in the Attorney General's office. I was an attorney. So no, I've never really gotten the entrepreneurship bug, but I certainly saw it up close and personal with my dad and what it takes to make payroll, and how to be organized, and customer service, and that sort of thing. So those same kind of character traits, no matter where you work, has to be carried over into whatever profession or whatever you decide to do. And it doesn't matter. It's very important.
Absolutely. I'm on back to you.
I'm listening to you. You were a business major.
Yes.
You worked for your father.
Uh-huh.
Where did politics come into play at?
That's a very good question. What happened was my parents always did a lot of community work, church work, community work. And so that's what I was doing. And Dr. Classy Hoyle, who was the Alderwoman for Ward 3 before me, she had gotten older, but her husband was ill, and she had done 3 terms, and she had decided that she wasn't going to do another one. So she came to my husband and she said, "Is Rhonda interested in running?" And he said, "Oh no, Rhonda's averse to politics." And so she said, "Okay." So she came back to him a couple months later and she said, is she ready now? She changed her mind. He was like, "Oh no, she hadn't changed her mind. She's still the same." And so then she came back, I think about a 3rd time. And finally, my husband said to me, he said, "Rhonda, you're doing all this community work out here. But I do believe that you can get much more accomplished sitting on the city council." And my response to him was, "What do you know? You're a senior accountant at the Board of Ed. You don't know anything about politics." But then I thought about it, and I looked at the Mike Bushes, the John Astles, the Virginia Claggets, the Trish Trumbauers, very honorable people in their profession as elected officials. And I said, you know what? I need to look closer to my own home base. And so I made that decision to run for office. And so, no, it was not on my radar at all, not at all. But I had to admit that it was worth a try. That Classy had the confidence in me to do it. And I talked to Mr. Sammy Gilmer before that, and Mr. John Chambers and my dad were best friends, and I knew Mr. Norwood Brown well. So all the ones that came before me, I think I'm the 5th one, I knew all very well. And I respected all of them highly. 4 totally different people, but very competent. Mr. Norwood, I always call him a Renaissance man. He owned a post office. He owned a restaurant. He owned a cab. He sold insurance. It wasn't much Mr. Norwood didn't do. And of course, John Chambers eventually became mayor for a short period of time. Mr. Sammy was Mr. Sammy, always on the move and always trying to get things done, and and that sort of thing, and very competent. And then Classy, who had been a college professor. So they were all different people. So I think I took parts of them as well as family members and friends and those I knew to try to do what I thought was best for the city and to run. And so it's been a great run. Accomplished a lot. A lot of things I've done in my life I've used as stepping stools, and I've used it as a toolbox. And so it's been a good thing. It's been a really good thing.
Well, you mentioned some powerful names. Is there one in particular that you felt was a mentor that you really looked up to?
Probably Mike Bush.
Mike Bush.
Yeah. He was very well known, rose to the heights that he rose to, was always willing to listen and give great advice. A lot of people depended on him for a lot of different things, especially in our community. He was extraordinarily well liked and did a lot. He did a lot of things in front of the scenes, but he did a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't even realize that we're still benefiting from today. So he was really probably, and he and my brother, my father's youngest brother, they call him Ouchie. They were best friends. And so I got to know him through him. And the one thing, I think it was 1990, there was a room at the school system that they were going to close parole elementary school. And I said, absolutely no way. And I went up to the budget hearing up at Old Mill High, and Miss Hannah Chambers was sitting next to Miss John's wife. And I said, Miss Hannah, I want you to read this. I wrote something. Should I present it? And she said, oh, absolutely, Rhonda, just do it. And I did. And that's kind of how the ball started rolling. And Mike Bush used to always laugh and joke about, I knew another letter was coming every week from Rhonda, something about the school, something about the community. And so, but he and John Astor and all those who played a huge part in the Senate, in the House, on the county executive side, county council people. That when I look back, I knew every one of our county executives on some level, from John Astor from 1972 all the way to the present time, Stuart Pittman. So when you look at those, and no one's perfect, they made great decisions. Sometimes things weren't the way they should, but like I said, we're all imperfect people, and we're not going to make perfect decisions, but we learn from those, and we learn from our own mistakes, and we move on and try to make up for those things that were not so perfect or close to it. But yeah.
Well, Madam Mayor, once you sit behind your desk, what is the one thing that you would like to see done differently as mayor of Annapolis?
Well, the first thing I had on the list, and I will say this, before I made a decision, people will say, Ron, you ought to run for mayor. Ron, you make a good mayor. I said, that's great for your confidence, but am I qualified? And when you look at that, you look at the job description and you look at your resume, and you try to match it up. But what I will say, I had two epiphanies. And I'm not going to get into the details, but one of them was the salary for the mayor is $98,000. I said, I want to take the older person's salary plus $1, because I think over 2 years that'd be about 160. There's some things we can do with that money. And the second thing is I want to keep the current staff. I want to have continuity of government. I've worked with these people. Like I said, nobody's perfect, but they've made incredible decisions. And I've been able to work with all of them on a very regular basis. I'm very pleased. In Baltimore City, I did incredible work. I rose to the point of one of a division chief of one of the units. I supervised 20 attorneys, 15 support staff, and in that one unit alone, we handled over 30,000 hearings a year just in my unit alone. And so I've trained a lot of people, hundreds of what we call baby prosecutors, some great, some mediocre, some in the middle somewhere. And so I'm able to work with all kinds of people. And I say my legacy, I didn't think of it till recently. 15 of those hundreds have gone on to become sitting judges on every level of Maryland's judiciary, from the Supreme Court, appellate, the circuit to district, and one U.S. judge on the federal bench, and 3 elected state's attorneys: Ann Colt-Litis here in Anne Arundel County, Charlie Smith in Frederick County, and Ivan Bates now in Baltimore City. So, and I have a friend who's now judge in Baltimore County. We worked together, and he was head of misdemeanor. And he said, Rhonda, when you sent them up from juvenile, they were trained. They were really, really trained. They were ready to go. And so my thing is, I want the people that we have in the city, I'm going to encourage more training and more opportunities. And I'll give you one example. Oftentimes we have the director of whatever department come and give us a report as to how the department is doing. I want some mid-level or some guy who's filling potholes. I want that person to come and give a report, because I think, first of all, there's buy-in. When you're involved, there's buy-in. And I want to hear, do you have any suggestions on how we can do things much better? And so some of that extra money maybe we can use for training. And I want to start a city foundation where people can actually donate money and get a tax write-off, whether it's somebody who wants to go to some unusual and very involved training in Delaware, and it's going to cost $2,000, apply to the foundation. or if it's a group that you're working with, a group of students, and you're the mentor, they're the mentees, and they're planting trees environmentally, but they need $500 more to complete the project. Fill out the application and get the $500 to do that. So I want to do some of those things. The mayor has done extremely well, and we were talking this morning about all the millions of dollars, probably $500,000 that we've actually helped communities with. And I want that communication, because people don't oftentimes read press releases or that sort of thing. So not that they're ill-informed, but we need to do a better job maybe of communicating that information to them. And so I want to extend and continue, and that's the word, continue some of the things we're already doing to make it a better situation for everybody. I mean, I know firsthand the things that we experienced in middle school and junior high and high school. Many of my classmates who are now, now great grandparents and grandparents didn't have the opportunities I did. And I mentioned it to a former superintendent. You look around and we have all these public and subsidized housing communities. The workforce is gone. We had great jobs at the Naval Academy, Crownsville State Hospital, NSA Fort Meade, the old plastic plant in Odenton, and the school system, even teachers and custodians, and the old Fourth Ward. And we don't have those benefits and those jobs anymore. So when you take away the education, and that's not up to par, when the workforce and the jobs are gone, and then the housing is amiss, then you have what you have. And so I want to elevate people. I want people to buy into what we're doing. I want to listen to what they have to say. I also want to start something called a kitchen cabinet, a group of people who are all over the city. I don't care who you are, to serve maybe in staggered terms. And it doesn't have to be anything formalized, but I want to hear what the boots on the ground are saying. What are you hearing in your community? How can we improve on it? Let's have a mini pop-up work group for 6 months. If we've got a specific item that seems to have some clarification, let's do that. So things like that. I want to kind of get people involved a little bit more in decision making. I mean, the mayor is the ultimate decision maker along with the council, but oftentimes people, have suggestions. You go, why did I think of that? I never thought about that. And so, and you get the buy-in when people feel involved, that their opinions are valued, and there's something there. Then you want them to come forward and say those things. So I don't want people to be afraid that they're going to make a mistake, or if they say something wrong, it's detrimental. No, we're all learning. We're still learning, and we're going to make mistakes. But a lot of things projects we might decide on, some of those things, and many of them can be undone. And so we look at those things and we move forward, and we take everybody along with us. The governor says, leave no one behind. And so that's kind of where I'm at. That makes sense.
Wow. That's awesome. That is awesome. Now, on that note, I'm going to pass you back to Miss Ayana Muyem. Ayana, it's on you.
Yeah, so it seems that you have a heart for the community, for children. I see that you are part of the Youth Violence Prevention Committee, as well as you currently hold a position with the Anne Arundel County Schools. Tell us about the importance of that work. What initiatives is the Youth Violence Prevention Committee undertaking right now? What challenges are you seeing? What success stories do you have?
Well, that was a committee that I was on several years ago. I retired from the school system in December of in 2021. And so, but I've been working through the mayor's office with Adetola Ajayi and No Harm. And we're doing a lot of incredible things as far as every summer. And this is I think the third summer we've had it, that we're going to different communities, underserved communities, and we're have pop-up vendors, and we may have 10 or 20 that come out and provide information. We want people to walk away armed with information, and so we do it on a lot of different levels. We might have several from the health department, the library, in all different departments and organizations, nonprofits within the county and the city. So we take the resources to the people, at least the information. And so if they have other questions, they can certainly come back and ask us that. But we did something different this past summer that Adatola thought about. We gave each community a $500 micro mini grant to determine what would they see it best be used. A lot of them did community gardens. So we took a look at those. Some of them did things for the seniors, or Thanksgiving baskets, or Halloween things for the children. And so it was their decision as to what they wanted to do in their different communities. I think we had 15 communities. So we gave them an opportunity to determine what they wanted to do. And so it's been a real blessing to see the ingenuity of people in their community, and knowing exactly and asking others, what should we do? And that community garden has been really successful, because when you're working, and I've never been a farmer, my mother grew up on a farm, but when you're looking at the land in an urban setting and you got your hands in the dirt, that's something that can't be bought. You're closer to the community, you're closer to the land, you're closer to your heritage, even including that. So we've got the children working at it, and after school programming. So there are a lot of needs. And so those are the kinds of things that I've been working on way before I even got on the council. And that's, like I said, between my family, my church, my community, we did a lot of those things, especially in parole, and we're spreading the wealth around. You'd be surprised how much people can get accomplished. We may think $500 may not be a lot of money, but they actually can get a lot accomplished with that. And they've done a tremendous job with we call them micro grants that we've given out this past summer. So yeah, and then we also have bigger grants through the city, through the Office of Community Services. And so we have nonprofits come and present before the council, and to determine what the need is. Usually it's about 20,000, and it depends on what they're doing. But it has to impact the city of Annapolis generally to be successful in receiving those bigger grants. But Adatola decided this year, last summer, let's do micro mini grants. So that's what we did.
It sounds like you have great experience mobilizing the community. And I know that that's a challenge in a lot of areas. What are some keys to getting people mobilized, getting people involved in some of the community work that needs to happen?
Well, first of all, people have to trust you. Let's start with that. You can be a wonderful leader and have all the skills, but if people don't trust you, they're not going to join the bandwagon. What I say is, people don't jump on a stop train. If a train is moving, people jumping on. You got something going on, people gonna say, can I help you? I want to do this, I want to do it. And I never try to pigeonhole people. My thing is, what do you want to do? And I work around whatever your skill set is. And my dad in a business had a great skill set. And there were some people who literally could not read or write and were disabled mentally, but he always could find something for them to do to make them feel, wanted and worthy. And so my thing is, people will say, well, Rhonda, I want to help. I say, well, what do you want to do? And then I try to fit that skill set into whatever is going on. And so I find that works the best of all. And so they have to trust you. They have to see that you're about something. You have to be authentic. You have to be prepared. You have to be organized. That's another thing. You can have great suggestions and all, but you got to be able to implement them. I mean, I can think of 1,000 things I like to do, but implementation is another thing. And if you don't have the people to implement it, then you need to find the thing that fits them. So you got to be creative and innovative. And sometimes what you thought you wanted to do didn't turn out. When I was younger, before I had my children, I used to write plays and all, and I would write the script, especially at the church, but sometimes they decided how they wanted it to go, and it was better. I had a gentleman, an older man who really wanted to be in my play. And he said, Rhonda, I want to be in your play. But he wasn't a very good reader. And the play was about a newspaper, the first Black newspapers. And so what I did was he had his newspaper and I just taped his part inside of the newspaper. And so you learn to, my dad used to say, if you can't work with them, work around them. So I worked around his skill set, and he was as happy as one could be. And so my thing is, I'm not wedded to what I've written or what I've done. I'll give you the framework, but we can certainly move along. And I'll say, never thought about that. That's even better. And so, it's fine. And sometimes it may not be better, but if I figure it's not going to harm anything, okay, what the heck? We'll go with it. I'm flexible.
It's so funny, Armand. A lot of times we learn additional information that isn't in the person's bio. Did you see anything about writing plays and things like that?
No, not at all.
My grandmother did it. She only went to about the 3rd grade, but she wrote plays and recited poetry. And people who knew her say, "You're just like Miss Lil. You're just like your grandmother." And I'll tell you this one story. She used to write plays, and she would have children, back in the day, bring cupcakes or cookies, and back then you didn't buy them in a store, you homemade them. But there was one particular family, she said, the hygiene was less to be desired. And so she asked them to bring potato chips. So that worked. They didn't feel left out. She wouldn't dare tell them, don't bring anything, but she was very good at working around a situation. So they felt fine about bringing the potato chips. So, but you don't want people, or especially children, or even adults, to feel like they're less than. We want you to contribute. And so she decided that was the best way to go, and it worked. So I think I got a little bit out of her from her too. So
That's wonderful, wonderful. Back to you, Armand.
So now, before I ask you the next question, for those of you out there that's on YouTube, subscribe to the show. And if there's a question that you would like to ask our future mayor, just drop it in the chat box and we will make sure that we're asking for you. Now, Madam Mayor,
yes,
as chair of the City Council's Public Safety Standing Committee and representative for the County Guns Violence Prevention Task Force, what were some of your landmark achievements that you were able to achieve?
As a public safety chair, I work closely with the police department, the fire department, and the Office of Emergency Management. The beauty of all that is, by being a prosecutor and retiring after 20 and a half years, it's what I did professionally. And so I trained officers at the academy, and university officers, college, a library, you name it, I train them, even some from Pennsylvania. And so it is not a difficult task to do. And working with Chief Ed Jackson and Deputy Chief Stan Branford has been a blessing, because they're from Baltimore City. And so there's a synergy there. I've never, carried a gun or worn a badge, but I understand that. And the thing of it was, it's when they came here, they knew nothing about Annapolis. But I was like the only bridge that they had, because I'd worked there for so long, and I went to law school there and Morgan there. And then I knew Annapolis. So oftentimes, they would say to me, what do you think about this? And I say, oh, that's a good idea. Or they might say something. I'm like, nah, that's not going to work in Annapolis. That might work in Baltimore City, but I don't think it's going to work here. And so a lot of it for me was a learning experience, not only, working in both places, but for them as well. And it's been a great collaboration. I understand the police department, how it operates, the fire department as well, the Office of Emergency Management, of course, the fire department, it can't be beat. Neither can our police department. Our Office of Emergency Management brought us through COVID. And our fire department chief is Chief O'Malley, and he has a couple of deputies now. Chief Simmons of the Office of Emergency Management has a deputy, Dave Mandel. They literally brought us through COVID. We had to pivot on a dime. That was March 13th, 2020. they told everybody go home. But we had to come up with a plan. And what Chief Simmons came up with was on Mondays, I was part of the round table virtually where we talk with business leaders. What is your issue? What are you having trouble with? Can we help you? And the mayor would be on there, and the mayor would say, okay, as somebody on Main Street, a business is having a problem, he would literally go down there and say, okay, what can we do to help you? Very hands-on. On Tuesdays, I was part of that team. I was the rep for the council, and we would have an opening statement by the mayor, an opening statement by the city manager, and then Dr. Kalyana Raman, who at the time was our health officer, would come on and give us an update as to what was happening. And then we would have a guest as well. The first guest, as I recall, was a gentleman from Carroll County who had something to do with one of the nursing homes, pretty much forewarning us as to what was to come. And we would have people from all over the city, the state, and the county to be a guest. And then we had all the directors there from all the departments. Also a representative from Lisa Robbins' office, our county councilwoman, from then Senator Elverth's office, from Dana Jones delegate, and Delegate Shanika Henson, who's now senator. They would be there, and we would all report out what's going on. Public Works might say, I'm having a problem with this sort of thing. Then Rec and Parks would say, I need this. And then Planning Zoning might say, well, Rec and Parks, I can help you with that. So it was a great synergy again within that, and it would be a 1-hour meeting, and we did it every Tuesday for at least a year and a half, if not close to 2 years. And from the school system side, I was also meeting with the school system people as well as some of the nonprofits. And then on Wednesdays in the city, I was not part of these meetings. It was HR, our internal HR. How the employees doing? What do we need to do for them? Who's working from home? Who's coming in? Who can come in? Do we need to put up barriers? And so it was a great plan. If there was something going on in the middle of the week, we would be told about that. We'd be informed. But that was the system that we had that Chief Simmons devised for us. But we had to come up with something immediately. And of course, it morphed as it went along, and everybody got really comfortable in making a determination. But everybody, you could hear people say, well, I can help you with that. When do you want me to come over and do that? And so it worked out great. I had Tornado Ida. It came through parole. I got home. I saw it. I thought I'd never see anything like that in Annapolis. You see it on television in the middle of Iowa or whatever. And I didn't know what to do. I just kind of stood there in the middle of the street. And Kevin Simmons said, Rhonda, we got this. Don't worry about it. They set up a command center. The governor came the next day. He walked the neighborhood. We had all the elected officials. We had people bringing in food. We had basically a command center, so to speak, at Mount Olive Church where people could get resources. We had the Red Cross. We had the insurance company, Maryland insurance people come in. We worked with insurance folks. Some people were underinsured. One family didn't realize for years and years they had actually had renter's insurance. They didn't know that. And I'm sure whatever they bought was within their budget. But then we had to work with trying to deal with that. I mean, there were things, and I look at TV and I see these whole towns wiped out, and I'm like, I don't see how they do it. We had about 100 or so people from very modest not injuries. Nobody was injured, not a soul, not one person. We from modest destruction, one or two things fell off the roof to, one person whose total roof came all the way off. I mean, it came through like gangbusters. And so when you have those kinds of situations, and like I've had in Baltimore, the health department, the school system, and where I've been, you know what the process is to handle an emergency. You've got the confidence in your people. You've got the confidence in yourself to make those decisions. You need to be a trusted leader when it comes to that. The mayor went home back in January, February 2020 to Australia to visit and say goodbye to his dying mother. I was put in charge. I was the acting mayor, and I'd been acting mayor many times under the Buckley administration, but also under Panley's administration. And you sign the book, and I asked the court clerk, what's the ending date? Because there's always an ending date. She said, there is none. We don't know when he's coming back. So I immediately had to handle one huge personnel issue that would have, trust me, changed the entire trajectory of this city. I had to put on my prosecutorial hat, do what I needed to do, got the staff on board, talked with my colleagues, and inside of 3 days, it was fixed. And so it would have changed this whole city, no doubt about it. So, you know, I've done a lot of things, been in situations where we had to make decisions. And the other thing, when you have staff, you have to recognize you have to recognize what they're good at. And what and when I was Baltimore City, we had 2 teams in the juvenile courts division, a charging team and a court team, and it switched every 6 weeks. And one young prosecutor came to me and said, Rhonda, she said, I just can't go to court. She said, I just can't. I'll do arraignments, but I don't want to try cases. So I kept her basically on a perpetual charging unit. She would sit there for hours and days and days. I gave her the more complex cases. I still gave it to the rest of the folks, but she had more. And then some people said, I didn't come here to sit at a desk all day. I want to go to court. So I had to figure out a balance on how to work that out where everybody felt good about what they were doing and valued. So sometimes you have to change the rules to make it work for the situation. I couldn't get rid of her. She was a good worker. She just had an aversion to going to court, but I had to figure it out. And I said, okay, how about this? And so everybody was happy. The people who wanted to go to court got a little more court time. And she, who sat behind a desk until the cobwebs grew on her elbows, she was fine. And so it worked out. And so that's the kind of things that you need to be able to pivot and be flexible and reconcile what do you have here and how can you maximize what you have. And so that's really, really important to me, and being prepared. I know I'm fully prepared to be mayor. I'm authentic. Like I said, I'm organized. I'm structured, trustworthy. And so no, it's my time, and I'm going to say that.
So now, Madam Mayor, before I give you back to Ayanna, there's been a lot of tragedies with fatal endings in Annapolis, the city of Annapolis.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your vision on controlling the fatalities that's been taking place in Annapolis?
Are you talking about the shootings?
Yes.
We are always in an ever evolving set of plans. I know the chief and the deputy always have a summer plan, a summer crime plan. And after the press conference last week, we sat down and we talked about how do we make this better. And so we're going to probably have a spring crime plan, a summer crime plan, a fall crime plan, and a winter crime plan. The winter crime plan, you get a lot of shopliftings and thefts and that sort of thing because of Christmas time. But also what we're going to do, and my big thing is consistent. If we're going to say we're going to have a meeting with a certain community every other month on the 3rd Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock at a certain location, let's do it. If one person shows up, fine. If 10 people show up, fine. If the next month 2 people show up, fine. If the next meeting 200 people show up, but have that meeting no matter what, and make the determination as to how often we're going to meet. It'll be determinative of the community itself. Clay Street, we're supposed to have another meeting next month, and we want to give out information. We want to involve, and we're going to involve Dr. Pindell, who's our first African-American male superintendent. We're going to involve Dr. Tony Gedden, who's our female and African-American health officer. We want to involve Skip Auld, who's our chief executive officer for our county library, and every other partner we can find and nonprofit to come in and maybe the first half hour have a session with the children, and then roll into an hour or more of adult topics that we want to discuss. And the more people are armed with information, the better off we'll be. And we've even, and I'll say this, when early on, and I'll say Chief Jackson, people were not they weren't eager to provide information. I've been to events, and a child might come up to a police officer, and the mother or father will say, "Get away from there. Don't talk to that person." Now, I mentioned it to one sergeant recently, a little girl who was blowing bubbles, and he was blowing bubbles with her, and nothing like that. I mean, it's been a wholesale change in many ways as far as how we relate to people as a police department, and how they relate to us. It's much more of a communicative situation, relationship, and Chief Jackson prides himself on community outreach. It's really something that we want to do even more of, but we've come a long way. He'll be here 6 years in July. And so we've come a long way. And I mentioned to the sergeant, I said, remember the time when we didn't do this? He was like, yeah, you're right. It didn't used to be this way. And so people feel that they can trust him. Chief Jackson is extraordinarily passionate about what he does. And so he really believes in what he does, and he really wants to make a difference, which he has. And sometimes he can wear his emotions on his sleeve, but that's him. And so we move along, and we do the best that we can, but it's an ever evolving process. So those are some of the things we talked about after the press conference last week, and it will continue to evolve because the people will evolve, situations will evolve, and so we can't be static. We have to recognize that maybe it worked last week or last year, but we may need to massage that, but also tack on something else.
Awesome. On you, Yana.
So we do have a couple comments from our viewing audience. Kathy Jones says that you will make a good mayor for the city.
Thank you.
Shout out to Vanessa Turner. Thank you for watching. And Orlando Mackel says, good seeing you.
Great.
So my last question for you is, I heard you say that you are organized, you are prepared, and you are trustworthy. What other qualities do you possess that should provoke the citizens of Annapolis to vote for you?
I'm prepared, and I was a Girl Scout, so that's the motto of Girl Scouts. It's being able, like I said, to be flexible, to be able to pivot, to understand people. People know if you're genuine, and children are really good at that. You can go up to a child and say, "Oh, hi, how are you?" And they're going like, "Nah." And so people need to be able to talk with you, share with you. And this doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I learned a lot from my family, from my community, from my church. And this isn't something you can teach somebody. You can't learn this yesterday. You can't develop this skill today. It does, and people know that. And I think that's really what really is makes a difference for me. And people say, if somebody says something, well, Rhonda did such and such, and say something such and such, they'll say, oh, that's Rhonda. Oh, yeah, that's Miss Rhonda. Yeah, that's her. And I've had people come up to me that I've helped. I might not even remember what I did. I was in a courtroom for something else recently. A lady called out my name. She told me who she was. I said, oh, and she said, thank you so much. And my thing is, it doesn't matter if you live in my ward, in my city, it doesn't matter. I'm going to try to help everybody and anybody that I can. And if I can't, I'll say, okay, let me see if I can find somebody. And if you don't hear from me in 2 weeks or a week, circle back around again. But I'm still working on it. So I don't like to leave people hanging. But if I just can't do it, I said, look, I've tried everything. I've talked to everybody, and that's happened only a few times, but at least I lead them to somebody who can. And that's how I feel about it. And I've heard people say, you know, if you can't figure it out, ask Miss Rhonda. She'll figure it out for you. She'll find somebody. The one thing, you know, I'll go to the grocery store, the post office, church. My husband will say, tell Rhonda. My kids will say, tell your mother. I was literally at a funeral, and that happens all the time. But I was in the bathroom, in the ladies' room, and I was in the stall. And a lady came in and said, Rhonda, I need your help. And I said, can I finish, please, first? And so she said, I got to catch you when I can catch you. And I said, okay, fair enough. Just let me finish. And so, you know, you feel good that you can help somebody. If I can help somebody as I pass along, then my living shall not be in vain. And let the life I live, the work I've done, speak for me. My mother, as she got older as an algebra teacher, the one thing she used to always say, I'm studying for my final exam.
Wow. You know, I can say that just through this interview, your compassion and your authenticity definitely shines through. Definitely.
Well, thank you very much.
Back to you, Armand.
So, Madam Mayor, we have reached that time, and you have people out there that want to vote for you, and you have people out there that looks up to you. What would you say to them that would want them to vote for you, and the little kids that look up to you for mentorship? What encouraging thing would you leave for the audience?
Well, what I'll say is I learned a lot from those people, even children, adults. That to me is the reason why, it's some of the reasons why people should vote for me. I want to learn from you too. I want to learn from your child. Many things are said by children are totally authentic, too much so at times. But anyway, no, I mean, I'm open to suggestions. I don't want to be rigid. I'm not. But then on the other hand, somebody has to make the final decision. And I don't want to make it in a vacuum. I want people to be able to feel comfortable in saying something, Rhonda, how about this? How about that? And so I want to be a mayor that is for all people, whether you vote for me or not. I mean, I'm confident that I will win. But if you don't vote for me, that's okay. I want to be there for everybody that lives in the city of Annapolis or works in the city of Annapolis, comes to visit the city of Annapolis, has a business in the city of Annapolis. I want to be the mayor for everyone.
Well, what more could be said? You know, we want to thank you for being on the show tonight. And, you know, I'm going to tell you something, Madam Mayor. I really feel like you have inspired me to want to give something away tonight. You know, and I think what I'm going to do is give away a shirt with our new logo on it. And the third caller that can tell me what high school did our mayor graduate from. My number is 240-603-1743. The third caller that can tell me what high school that our mayor graduated from, you will win this shirt with our new logo on it. You're on the clock. Don't be afraid.
Now I'm going to ask you, is there a possibility for this to go on my website for other people to see, or do they need to find? It doesn't matter to me.
Absolutely. I can put it there.
That'd be great.
I will share it with you.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. You have to call. You have to call.
Now you have to call in. You have to call in with the answer. What number are we looking for, Mom?
240-603-1743. Again, that number is 240-603.
Which number caller?
Oh, you are the first caller. Looking for caller number 3.
Did you say the fifth caller?
First caller. First caller.
Okay.
All right, we have one caller. All right, you have a second caller. And normally I would. We have a winner. If you can tell me what school she graduated from. What's your name? What I want you to do is text me your information to this number, where you live, and then I'll make sure you get this. Congratulations. Everyone out there, thank you for joining us tonight. Next week, we have a guest, another guest. We had Senator Henson on the show. Start off Women's Month. Next Wednesday, we're going to have her missionary father. He'll be on the show next Wednesday. Come back and join us next Wednesday at the same time. Yana, you have anything you want to say?
This was a great interview. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to our sponsors and our viewing audience. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you for the invitation. This was wonderful. Really appreciate it. Anytime.
Awesome. Awesome. See you next week. Yeah.
Good night, everybody.